continued his inspection of Ben's home. It didn't take long to find the trapdoor in the floor that led to the cellar. A short series of steps, hewn from bedrock, descended into darkness. Luke pulled a small glow rod from his belt, activated its light, and climbed down to the steps. The cellar wasn't entirely dark, as a scant, eerie light emanated from the luminescent stone that was set in one wall. Ben had used the cellar for food and water storage, and a small variety of dried fruits, vegetables, and meats, all of which now looked like collapsed bits of leather, remained strung to a metal pipe that traveled to a cistern. Luke also found a workbench that had been constructed from scrap metal. Tools were neatly arranged on shelves, but a few selected tools rested on the workbench, as if waiting for their owner's return. When Luke spotted the box, it was an intricately carved boa wood box, resting on the floor between the workbench and small auxiliary generator. Luke was moving the glow rod closer to the box when a sudden sound came from above. Thud. A swift, fluid motion. Luke spun to his left as he reached fast for the blaster that was holstered at his right hip, and then sprang back towards the cellar steps. He brought his blaster up fast so that its barrel was angled up through the open trapdoor. An instant later, the air was filled by a panicked electric shriek. The shriek came from the doomed head of Luke's astromech droid R2-D2, who had traveled with him and helped to evade the Imperial blockade around Tatooine. The startled droid unleashed a flurry of angry beeps as he peered down at Luke, when he stomped his treads at the edge of the trapdoor's opening, kicking up the layer of sand that rested on the floor of the upper room. "Sorry, R2, Luke said as he lowered his blaster. "I guess I'm a little jumpy." As he returned his weapon to his holster, he murmured, "I'll probably stay that way until we find Han." Luke's throat was already dry from the desert heat, but as he said Han's name, he felt as if he might choke. He had no idea where his friend Han was, only that the armored bounty hunter Boba Fett had taken Han's carbonite frozen body from Cloud City. Various reports confirmed that Boba Fett intended to deliver Han to Tatooine's based gangster Jabba the Hutt. But so far, Boba Fett was a no-show. It was Luke's other friend, the Alliance leader, Princess Leia Organa, who had instructed him to hide out on Tatooine and wait for some signs of Han. Unfortunately, Luke had never been very good at waiting. From above, R2-D2 emitted a series of soft electronic beeps and a short whistle. Recognizing the whistle's lilt as a concerned question from the droid, Luke replied, "I'm fine, R2. Go make sure the X-Wing's camouflage net is secured, and I'll be up in a few minutes." R2 chirped a hesitant response, but then his motor whined as he backed away from the trapdoor. The movement pushed some sand towards the trapdoor, sending it streaming down to the cellar. Luke shook his head. One way or another, sand found its way into just about every place on Tatooine. Hello and welcome to OG Star Wars page, and I read just a little bit of the prologue of the Kenobi book here. The Life and Legend of Obiwan Kenobi is what we're reviewing today. And Luke is hiding on Tatooine as Leia suggested to him, and he's also looking for answers that possibly Obi-Wan may have left him to his lineage, to his father, as if Vader is really his father, you know, questions that elude him. As you can see that this book not only is the life and legend of Obi-Wan, but it also is in the time frame between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So for Luke, that's the time frame that this novel is. For Obi-Wan, this book is all the way from the Phantom Menace all the way into Heir to the Empire. So this book is a great reference to continuity, or basically a history of Star Wars pertaining to Obi-Wan. We do have him remembering Clone Wars, the Tartakovsky's Clone Wars, not Filoni's, but Clone Wars, where we have Asajj Ventress being mentioned in here, and who she is, her true form, to who she was before Filoni came out with the Clone Wars. So this is the original Asajj that is mentioned in this book, Clone Wars. Here we also have a spot where we find out how Obi-Wan meets Dexter Jester. I think I said that right. And so his relationship and how he came to be in Obi-Wan's life. We also have, you know, just, you know, information, not Darth Maul's name, but who he was as a species. And that's a Eridonian Zabrak. So basically, again, the original Darth Maul species that wasn't Dathomir. So that, I thought that was really great. So as you can see, this book was published in 2008. So we have pre-Filoni Clone Wars references in here, and how the characters were originally created before that mess came about with the Clone Wars, and how he tried to re-event, or he just didn't know the history or did not want to look. But this is not what this is about. So as I said, we do have references in here from all those places, all the way to the Heir to the Empire, including Tatooine Ghost. So we have the life and legend of Obiwan Kenobi. And we also have, you know, Obiwan Kenobi, basically, we know that from the movies that he pledges to his dying master that he'll train Anakin Skywalker. And that relationship was still kind of rocky from the beginning, because he's seen, he wanted to keep the pledge and the honor that he bestowed, that, you know, he wants to bestow to his master Qui-gon and his legacy by training the Chosen One. And there's a little bit animosity with that as well, but he grew to love Anakin Skywalker, as we see in the Phantom Menace, or not the Phantom Menace, in the Rise of, get the movie straight, as we see in Revenge of the Sith. And so we have that little bit of, you know, growing to love and growing in relationship between the two, which is very, very awesome. That's what I like to see, is the character growth as well. And we also have the relationship between Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon in here, so I recommend reading this as well, because we get a little glimpse with that. And then as the story progresses, we have little interludes with Luke Skywalker, you know, finding the journal, which basically, that prologue basically leads up into him finding the journal in Obi-Wan's home. And I read almost up to the point where he finds it, and how Obi-Wan set it to where only Luke can open it up. And that goes into a little bit more as we get into the New Hope section, I guess you could say, where Obi-Wan, before they leave to head off to Mos Eisley, he takes the saber, Anakin's saber, and he goes down into his cellar and tells Luke he's going to come right up. And from there, he takes the fingerprints off of the saber, the thumbprints, and puts it into the box that he leaves for Luke. So everything he has in that box and set out for that is for Luke to find, and for only Luke to open with the Force and his fingerprints. So there's a little bit of information there. And in that journal, in that box, is basically a journal where Luke not only finds out how to construct a lightsaber, there's also like his feelings and his memoirs in there. So he gets to read a little bit more about that, about Obi-Wan. He doesn't find the questions that he wants, but he does have training in there. He has a little memoir from Obi-Wan, and he gets to learn about these people that he never heard of, like Asajj Ventress, Dooku. Count Dooku is in this. Again, Darth Maul's in this. Palpatine before he became emperor is in here, as well as, Vader and, Sidious are the emperor. And, all the way, we learn, like I said, his relationship with a Jester. And, yeah, so I'm going to read this little thing here. Small paragraph about Obi-Wan's growth with how he considers him as a master towards Anakin, and taking on the responsibility that Qui-Gon left him. So this is a very interesting, very in-depth, deep paragraph that kind of made me sit back and think, oh crap, kind of thing. So initially, Obi-Wan considered training Anakin as his debt to Qui-Gon. There we go, debt. So that's what he was thinking. However, over the course of time and numerous missions, Obi-Wan came to regard Anakin as something more than his own personal responsibility. So there's growth there. He just seen it as a responsibility and debt to Qui-Gon. Anakin, impossible as he could be, had become Obi-Wan's friend. So we see the growth here. We see the growth through this in George Lucas' era of timeline here, and again before Filoni's Clone Wars. And there's great growth there and understanding on his relationship with Anakin. And, when we see them interact in the movies, this expounds on it a little bit more. It does really. Even if you look at the movies, you could still sense that he felt obligated to a point because he wanted to honor his master, which is Qui-Gon. And then eventually he grew to love Anakin, and he grew to befriend him, and, that progress happened. Now, also in this book, of course, we have Luke very upset about being told about who his father is to a certain point of view. So that expounds on a little bit more. So if you're really interested in that part too as well, I would suggest picking up the book. I mean, everything in here with Obi-Wan and Anakin that basically builds upon Luke creates a bigger story, a bigger understanding is in this book. If you love the history and continuity and love to expound on that, I would say that these writers in George Lucas era did an excellent job. And this book right here, even though this is a children's scholastic by Ryder Wyndham book, it expands great on Obi-Wan's lore pertaining to him, Vader, and Luke, and even Leia in a sense. Because even a part of the book when he's seen Leia on being projected from R2-D2, he, basically he's like, there's the twin. This is the will of the Force. Basically, that's what Obi-Wan was thinking in A New Hope, is this is the way of the Force. Nothing is coincidence, or there's no, like he said, he doesn't believe in luck, that everything, happens because of the Force. And so we see that reflected in this book as well. And when Obi-Wan finds out that Vader survives, he and this goes back to Darth Lord, Rise of Darth Vader. So another reference right there is that he goes into an alley, and Qui-Gon finally reaches out to him and tells him the person that you know and love is now consumed by Vader, and that he will never set foot on Tatooine in fear of bringing Anakin up to the surface, basically. And I'm paraphrasing right there. And then, they have a talk here, and they also talk about, and this has Sharad and Ahasharad Het too as well, and it references back to those comics as well. And even Anakin talking to Sharad Het, about what happened on Tatooine when he found his mother, has all of that. I recommend picking up this book, especially if you love the comics, because it references the comics as well. So Qui-Gon asks, or Obi-Wan asks Qui-Gon why he hasn't really told him about, what had happened with Anakin when it came to the Tusken Raiders and all this. And at the end of the book, he gets to speak with Qui-Gon again. And Qui-Gon basically tells him, I did not tell you because you weren't ready to forgive. And that's deep. So I'm going to read this little paragraph here about how Obi-Wan realizes that why he wasn't ready for the truth about Anakin and why Qui-Gon didn't tell him. Obi-Wan had thought Qui-Gon meant that he wasn't ready to comprehend details about Anakin's conversion to the dark side. But now he finally understood his master's words. I wasn't ready to forgive Anakin, and he won't be entirely free unless I do. And that also references Tatooine's ghost on Leia's journey on forgiving her own father as well. So again, a lot of great references here. And again, we do have the excerpt from A New Hope in the epilogue, where if you, not A New Hope, but Heir to the Empire. So if you read that book, it does have a portion of Obi-Wan's farewell to Luke as well. And it ends with that. So again, I highly recommend this book. You know, there's, as far as I know, there's no Audible on this. So, but it's still a great read. It's a small, short read. It's only about 14 pages. A great read just to settle down since we're on, you know, social distancing and everybody's basically staying home. Get this book. You can get it. Amazon will deliver it. Again, Life and Legend of Obiwan Kenobi here. And we do have a lot of references in the continuity, our history and lore. You know, our Clone Wars, Tartakovsky's, even the comics. And even the comics pertaining to Luke, because Obi-Wan does rescue Luke in a couple of scenes while they're on Tatooine. And so please, again, pick up the book. I highly, highly recommend it. Thank you so much. And we will talk about this novel in depth on Thursday morning coffee chat at 9 a.m. So meet me there, 9 a.m. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or you want to chat it out in the comments below or anything, please leave that comment down below. Press the like button. Support this channel, support the EU lore, subscribe and share. Let people know about my channel as well. And you can also check in the descriptions below for merch if you want to support that way as well. Thank you so much, and may the force be with you.